Hello and welcome to Nodes and Biscuits, a Godot game dev podcast. I'm Christoph Klestel, your host, and for today's episode I had a chat with Sander, a lead game dev and tech artist at StudioTolima, where they're currently working on Koira, a visually stunning 2D title being made in Godot. I recommend you go check it out even before the episode. And now, let's get the episode going. Sander, how did you get into game development? Do tell.
Into game development, it was a long story actually. I always loved games in general, and at some point, I got like one of these. It started all with like a Game Maker 1 or 1.5, something like that. Yeah,
Wait,
when I was like 13.
What did Game Maker 1 look like?
Horrible. It looked like an XP program. Like imagine any XP program in your head, and it's that.
Oh,
so
if you compare it to Godot 2, do you remember what Godot 2 interface looked like?
No, I think I started with 3.0.
Okay.
Already, yeah.
Right. Never mind.
In 2018, I started with Godot, so no, I cannot compare it. But it didn't look too good, but it worked very well. It had like the drag and drop functionality. You could make your games in it. There was like a huge ecosystem of people doing tutorials, so it was ideal for a 13-year-old to get creating games.
Nice.
So that was nice. Yeah. After that, you go to school and you get to like be 15, and then you get like one of these graphical calculators, right? Where you can plot graphs and like do some cool calculation stuff. And on these, I had like a Texas Instruments TI-81 or something like that. And on this, you can also program directly on the device. And I was just programming games every day in math class. And so my teacher was always asking like, Sander, why are you calculating so much? And I was like, yeah, it's math, right? I mean, I need to calculate, no?
Velocity on the calculations for this.
Yeah.
It's super interesting. So is this a device that you just got at primary school? Oh, well, no, sorry, not primary, at high school.
At high school, yeah.
High school.
No, you had to buy it yourself. It was pretty expensive. It was a calculator of, I think, €100.
This is the first time I'm hearing of it. I must have completely skipped over this. Very cool.
Oh, okay.
And the moment you got it, you explored the options and possibilities. You just went ahead and made games with it.
Yes. It came with like a super thick manual full of like all the commands you could do. So I was learning to program on that thing and like just making these little... I remember making like a Mario-esque game that automatically generated levels that were playable. Like it never generated an unplayable level.
Damn.
And other things. Like I tried to make Pokemon that didn't go well.
That's awesome. Did you also copy all the names or make your own?
For the Pokemon, I copied the names, yeah.
You copied the names. Nice. So a real clone. That's awesome. I think that's a super cool approach where you really take something that you know works and you try to make it yourself.
You tried to make it. It failed, though. I didn't get very far. But I tried.
Can you imagine if you actually managed to perfectly copy Pokemon? That would be something else.
That's true. And the funny thing is, like every time I had like a new game, my classmates would like stand in line because you had like these cables which you could connect one calculator to the other, and so you had to like send over the games to my friends. It's cool.
Oh, you could even connect them. Yeah.
Yes.
You know, I'm a big fan of wires overall, right? So, headphones, for example. I just can't do wireless headphones because I have this irrational fear of running out of battery at the wrong time. And it's never happened to me. but
That's good.
Yeah, I'm really happy about it. But I still have this irrational fear and I can't shake it off.
Right. Yeah, I'm going full Bluetooth though. Like I'm now having a wire because I'm connected to my microphone, but otherwise I would have done Bluetooth.
No, I understand it. It's very comfortable though with Bluetooth, isn't it? It's super comfortable. You can walk about. You can just get up from your chair and
exactly.
Stroke the
you can
dog.
headbang without snagging the cord.
So good. I'm worried about trying this out. Maybe if I do try it out, I won't go back. And so what happened next?
So after that, I went to university where I kind of had like a pause of making games because university was kind of harsh. But I mean, just I needed to pause. And then when I did my bachelor thesis, I thought like, wouldn't it be cool if I did a game again on the side? And so I made like a little application, like a little Android game called I Want Bread. And it's all about eating bread. It was made in libgdx, so that's Java. And it was like no editor at all, everything through code. It was horrible. But I went through it. It still exists. But I tried to play it recently, and it's kind of crashed. So it's unfortunate. But
unfortunately, where can one find it?
On the Android Play Store. Just
really,
it's still there.
Still there. Wow.
But somebody told me this week that I need to update them, because apparently Google is blocking the downloads because they need to use a new SDK or something. So, yeah.
Gotcha. How long ago did you make this game?
That was in 2017. Yeah.
Nice. So just
16, 17, something like that.
7 years ago. That's not too far off. I mean, sure, given it feels like last year is 10 years ago, but still, 7 years. Nice.
Yeah, true. So yeah, I did that. I got a lot of experience out of that, like how to structure a game, how to structure interfaces, stuff like that. And after that, I did the rest of my studies without doing too many games. And then I started working. And as a data scientist, so not as a game developer at all.
Nice.
So I was a data scientist for analyzing data to also, we had our own backend where clients could see their data and analyze it themselves, like fill in or use machine learning or other models to see what, for example, like certain processes were doing in their factory or something like that. But yeah, that was after 2 years clearly not what I wanted to do. So I also did some community management for the same company, and after that I was like, yeah, maybe I wanna do more what I really want to do in life. Like COVID also hit, so everyone was like inside, reflecting too much on about themselves. So I was like, what do I really want to do? And I was like, I really want to make games. So then I started to do like one game jam every month. So I did 12 game jams in a year with Godot.
That is awesome.
Yeah.
That is awesome. Yeah.
I learned a lot. And you can see like the progression. Like the first ones were pretty bad. And then the last ones were really, yeah, I'm proud of the later games for sure.
Whenever I think about this, doing 12 game jams in a year, so you do a game a month, I imagine that the amount of advantages to doing it any other way is immense, right? Because you get discipline, you also have a clear end, so you must finish that project within a month, right? So you're always thinking about it. The moment you've got a game where you're like, okay, I'll finish it in 6 months. If the deadline is so far off, there's always going to be scope creep because you have a little bit more time next month. Yeah, sure, I'll do it then. And then it grows. But doing it every month, you've got to be tight.
Yes. You have to be tight, and you have to come up with an idea and just start doing it. It's like sometimes you don't come up with a good idea, and then you have to start doing something, and the idea will like come the next day, or maybe even like the last day, like Sunday or something, like last day of the jam.
Last day of the jam.
Like, this is what the game will be. All right.
I love that.
Let's do it.
Yeah. So we've got jumping, we've got platforms. Let's make it a racing game. Let's put cars in there. It'll be great.
Yes. But yeah, it also took a lot of discipline for sure. Like doing one jam a month. Like I think I did good by telling my friends that I was doing this, because near the end of the year, I was kind of feeling tired of it. Like it took every weekend you were like sleep deprived or you were like stressing out. And so my friends would be saying like, Sander, you haven't made a game yet this month, and there's still a weekend. So get to it.
You go like, all right. Oh wait, but I may have misunderstood. So it's not that the game jam was month long.
No,
No,
it was.
Okay, so
I
it
just
was
picked a random game jam
each month.
every month.
I see. So even less time than I imagined, right? So I was imagining that you actually had a theme per month, and each month you had to do a game jam. But this, you really joined a random, or you just picked a game jam that you liked, given a month, right?
Yes.
And okay, now it makes sense. Cool.
I remember I joined the Wild Jam, the Godot Wild Jam a few times.
That's a very
the
good
Gotham
game jam.
a few times. Yeah.
Also
the
Gotham.
cozy ones.
Yeah. I remember I made this game for the Gotham Game Jam, and it was a ship. It was a 3D game. There was a ship on the ocean. It was my first time ever trying to make a game with a ship, and till this day, I can't forgive myself for not taking that further, because the mechanics that I put in there were super similar to a game that came out roughly half a year ago called Dredge.
Oh, okay.
I'm always just thinking back on that game, and I'm going, this could have gone so well.
They won all the prizes.
it could have been so good. Yeah, the only thing I didn't have was the story, which was a big plus in Dredge, but still, you know, it was really nice. What game did you make for the Gotham Game Jam? Do you remember?
Like once, I made a game along with an Iranian guy, and we created a game where you were a painter, and you had to paint the road that the painter would travel. So you start where the painter is, and you click, and you drag, and then you make the road basically, and you had to like manage how much paint you have to build this road by going past villages to replenish, and then you had to go to landmarks to paint them, so you lose paint there, but you get prestige. So it was like an endless runner.
Nice.
In that way.
That is very, very nice. I don't remember playing that game. I was just curious in case I actually played it. Very nice. Yeah.
Thanks.
And what happened after the game jams?
So after the game jams, I was like kind of still at my old job, and I was not I was casually browsing game development jobs, like not really committing to anything, because most of them use Unity or Unreal or like another engine, and I was very proficient in Godot at that point. And then all of a sudden, out of the blue, I saw like on a Slack channel for Belgian game developers, like a job opportunity pop up for a Godot game developer. I was like, in Belgium. I was like, that's me.
Holy moly. Nice.
I must be
very
the guy.
Targeted. Yeah.
Yes. So for me, that was like kind of a sign of like, okay, if I want to do this, I have to do it now, and I have to like contact this guy. And so I contacted him. We got together, talked a bit, and yeah, we really hit it off. And now I'm almost 2 years at the company as a lead developer. So,
wow,
fun.
Wow, a lead developer. Even.
Yes.
Wow, that is so cool. So cool.
It's I'm also the only developer. Now the team starts assembling a little bit. But
yeah, I remember meeting a lead programmer once and asked him how he got there. You know, how he got to his position. And he said, well, I'm the only programmer, so of course I'm the lead programmer.
Yeah, that's me as well. Yeah.
That's brilliant. And right, so for example, on your Twitter, and from what I know, there's this beautiful game that you're working on. Is that your current project, or and have there been any other projects within the company where you're working now?
Yeah, so Koira is our current project. Yes, it's immensely beautiful. Like, we have such great artists. The sound design will also be amazing, and it is the first project of the company. Like, the company is really formed around the project. Because Ben Legau, the original guy who started the project and who made the prototype, he got funded by Don't Not after making like a little demo that he put on Steam and with the sound designer. And so after getting funded by Don't Not, the publisher, he starts assembling people and I was the first hire after that. Yeah, I was the first employee of the studio.
Very nice. Truly very nice. I'm super curious about all of the things that you do, because in any game where you have beautiful art, a very big part of beautiful art is... So I see that there are two parallel things that are super important. First is tooling, so that you can efficiently put new art into the game in a way that makes sense, right? Because you don't want to be burdening yourself with all of the usual processes of hand creating all of the scenes and whatnot, depending on the structure of the game. And the other is visual effect, not visual effects, but all of the graphic programming, right? Making sure that things look good, and there could be shaders. You could be using a lot of things there, helping
Yes.
a lot of things from a lot of angles. So, do you do any of this? And also, what do you do within the project?
Yes. So to answer the first two questions, we have a lot of art. We have more artists than programmers, so it's hard to get everything in time. Like, it comes in from the artist, we put it in the game. It's kind of hard to do, and to make sure that me and Ben, like the founder of the project, have time to do all the game design and all the systems programming. We actually have a half-time person doing all the integrations of the art, like the animations and the assets in general, who is helping us out. Because before that, we were doing that ourselves, and it's a lot of work, yeah. But it's needed.
It's necessary. It can get a little repetitive as well, can't it? Right? You just sometimes repeating the same task and just putting a different image in there, right? But it needs to be the correct structure in the right folder and whatnot.
Yeah, exactly. But it's also nice that you can listen to a podcast in between, or like watch a video, because it's so easy to do it. But yeah, it's pretty repetitive sometimes. And then the second question. So yeah, I love shaders, like creating shaders. Awesome.
Sweet.
Yes, there's a bunch of shaders in Koira that I really love, and I'm pretty proud of. That make everything like move. A lot of noise, and like things where you have to like do a double take. Like, did I see that right? Okay.
This is also a lovely point. Is there a shader that you're particularly proud of? Something really clever, or perhaps a shader where you solved a tricky task by implementing it in such a clever way, something like that?
I'm really proud of like how there's like patterns in the game, where you see like these very nice like yellow and white patterns that appear on statues, and I'm very happy with how those turned out, how they like nicely shimmer and nicely look very fluid, and there's multiple layers of different patterns, and like how they get displaced between each other.
That's beautiful.
Yeah. I really like that one. Yeah.
When a shader comes together well, it comes together really well, doesn't it?
Yes.
Yeah,
yes.
Shaders are great. How did you get into shader programming, into shaders in general?
So at one point, I got up out of bed and I was like, I want to be able to make fractals.
Oh no!
Because fractals are pretty cool. But then I realized, like, to get there, to get to programming a fractal shader, you need to do like a bunch of steps, and I wanted to do it properly. I didn't want to like copy paste some code of like a fractal and then not understand what it does. So then I started with doing the Book of Shaders, which is an awesome website. It teaches everything that you need to know about shaders. Well, it's half done, so it teaches half of what you need to know.
But it teaches you really well. I've also gone through the Book of Shaders, and it was such a good resource. Incredible. Highly recommend it.
Yes, me too. And I still have like a Godot project with all the examples that I did in the in Godot, of course. Like, I read the Book of Shaders, did it directly in Godot, and like have a big project with all these little snippets of shaders where I when I need like a snippet of a shader, then I go there and I like see which one I need.
Yeah. Well, I've voiced this previously as well, but one thing I hate about shaders is not shaders. I love shaders, but I hate all the people writing them with all of the abbreviations.
Yes.
You know, you've got a shader, and there's a variable called CRVBTC. And you're really scratching the back of your head at that point, going, "Why? Why couldn't you call it tilting left or something?"
Yes.
You know, it would be so
True.
much
And
easier.
then you go on Shader Toy, and it's like all these amazing shaders, and you're like, I'm gonna try to understand this one. It's like, nope.
Never, never. I've been there as well, and it's a point of frustration because whenever I took a shader from Shader Toy, loved it, and it was a simple shader. I just couldn't understand it because of all these abbreviations, all these shortenings, or just a random variable name. A single
Yeah.
letter variable name, of course, because that's how professionals do it.
That's the fastest, right?
Oh no. And then when I took the time to actually come to understand it, it was so much easier to read it with the new code where the variables were named properly. You could read what is happening. But before then, no chance.
Yeah, exactly. Like, I get a lot of people coming to me and saying, Sander, shaders are just black magic to me. And I have to say, like, for me as well, like, give me any shader and Shader Toy and it's black magic for me.
Black magic. Yeah. I
Yes.
still remember the time when I learned that when you write a shader, it's executed per pixel.
Yeah.
I took a step back. I was like, whoa. But there's like, your refresh rate. So we're talking about 140 screen captures per second. And in every second, per pixel, all of those calculations get done per pixel. I was flabbergasted. I still can't believe it today, by the way.
Yeah. It's insane. But yeah, that's also one of the hard paradigms to start thinking in like one pixel. Like you have to calculate instead of saying the square is there, you have to say for this pixel, is it in the square or not?
Yes. Yeah.
Yeah.
It also supremely messed with my mind because I, before starting programming, I was doing 3D. So whenever I imagined the UV map of an object, I always imagined the full map. And then in shaders, suddenly when you're working with UV, you also specify UVX, UVY, the two axes there. However, you're just talking about a single pixel along that UV map, right? You're no longer thinking about the whole thing, but you're also referencing the whole thing depending on the position. It was just, okay, never mind. But yeah, crazy
Yes.
stuff. I love shaders to bits.
Yes, me too. It still blows my mind sometimes. Like just doing some shader
Yeah.
experiments. Yeah.
Still black magic, like you say, also to me. Has it ever happened to you that the artists on your team got back to you with an idea for a visual effect and you were like, this can only be done with a shader?
Not really. Like I think most things you can do almost everything you want in the shader in an animation, right? So it's just like you just have to weigh the benefits between do I want to make like something dynamic, which could look or very very good and like it could seem dynamic and like always changing, but it could also kind of look very very bad. Or do we go for like something that takes a bit longer to create, like an animation, like a 2D animation, but that's always very on point and like it does look the same every time, but it will look good. So
Yeah.
not really like there's always multiple ways you can tackle a problem.
No, certainly. Yeah. And in terms of your project, if I may ask, if this is under NDA of any sort, let me know. It's all good.
Yes.
What's your project management like? What tools do you use?
Oh, okay. So at first we used Excel. Of
Sweet.
course.
Excel works for anything.
Yes, exactly.
Excel.
So it worked very well. That's true. Like at first it worked very well, but then the team started growing a little bit. Like we saw that we wanted more tasks. We wanted to be able to do more with one tool. And then we outgrew Excel a little bit, or maybe we outgrew our knowledge of Excel, which is also possible. And then we started using Airtable to list all the tasks.
Oh.
And Airtable is like an Excel on steroids, basically. It can do Gantt charts. It can do a lot more. It's like Excel, especially for project management.
Do you? So I've heard of Airtable. I also created a very small sample project of Airtable myself because I was curious about the technology. And do you make use of the APIs of Airtable in any way?
No,
No.
no, we just use it as is, basically. And then we have like huge, because it's very handy that you can like have a huge list of all the tasks. You can have a huge list of the tasks for this milestone, and then you can have personal views of like, okay, these are my tasks for this week, or I don't know.
Yeah. It's very straightforward and well, not simple at first, but afterwards it becomes rather simple to navigate Airtable, doesn't it?
Yes, for sure.
Would you use Airtable for a personal project now that you have the experience with it? You know, if you went ahead and you were working on something for, let's say, half a year.
No, I don't think so. No, I think it's mostly when you're really in a big team. I think for yourself, you can use Notion or Excel or whatever. Yeah.
I'm sure that works well. I mean, Notion is one of those things, again, that works for anything. You know, it's note-taking, databases, Kanban boards. You can put anything in the body of a note, really.
Yeah, exactly.
Do you also make use of Notion?
No, we don't use Notion. No, we use Google Drive because it's a little more professional, I guess.
Google Drive. Yeah, I mean, Google Drive's great. It takes in anything you throw at it. Then you get the sheets, the Word documents, right? Spreadsheets and whatnot.
Yes.
Yeah. Also, a reason I was asking about the API was because our previous game was very systems heavy, right? And we were looking for sort of clever developer solutions. And we found Notion, and on Notion we hooked up on the to the API, the open API of Notion, and we drew up databases for everything in the game on Notion. And then with a click of a button in the editor of Godot 3.5 back then, it would update into
That's
the
cool.
in-game objects. And yeah, but it was important for us because it was a systems-heavy game, right? So there were separate enemies, weapons, and dungeons and whatnot. That actually leads me to the next thing I'm curious about. What is the game about?
All right, yeah, that's a good question. Yeah, so Koira is a narrative-driven adventure game where you're a little creature lost in the woods, and you find a small dog who is trapped, and you save this small dog, and then you go on all these kind of adventures throughout the forest, throughout a very beautiful snowy forest. And along the way, so you're actually trying to make your way back home together with the dog, and become friends along the way as well. Like you interact with the dog, you play with him, things like that. But there are hunters along the way who are there to kick sand in your nice picnic, and
Hate them already.
Yes, they bring the danger, and it's really a tale about friendship and coming together as a team.
That's beautiful. So story driven, I imagine, right?
Yes. Yeah.
Very. So dialogues, a lot of dialogues.
No dialogues.
No dialogues.
No.
Oh, interesting.
There's
okay.
no dialogues. There's no text in the whole game. It's all like we really want to tell the story through animation, through gameplay, through music, and it's gonna be a pretty short game. We're aiming for 3 to 4 hours. So in the long sitting, you'll get the experience. But yeah, it's a challenge to have no words in the game.
Oh, it must be. It must be because it's such an easy thing to do to put a single sentence on the screen and go, "This is what's happening." Otherwise, you have to make sure that you deliver the information in a different way. Wow.
Yes, and that's where most of our playtest time goes to, like seeing if people understand what. Like, first of all, we don't have text at all in the game. So for now, I'm not gonna make promises, but for now we don't have text at all, which is hard. Like, which makes that we have to be very clear about what gameplay mechanics do, and also the intention of the story. So every time we have a playtest, we have to ask, like, did you know what you did? Did you know what this meant within the story? Like you did this action, but what do you think it means for the character, for example?
Now, how do you run playtests? Do you pay a company? Do you invite people you know? Do you grab random people off of the street? How do you
All
do
of
it?
it, all of the above. So in Brussels, like we are in Brussels. We are in a co-working space for only game developers. So it's very easy to just pick somebody from their desk and say, "Hey, do you want to play our game?" And we, of course, do the same for their games. So we go along and play their game. So that's the first line of playtests. Then sometimes we have this event in Brussels, which is called the Brotaru. And it's like an event for game developers, which is held monthly. And there you can just bring your game. Everyone brings their game. You play each other's games. You have a beer. You have a jolly good time. But there we also try to have people play our game and see what they think of it. And then now, like in I think when this episode comes out, we'll be doing playtests with a company at that point who will invite people to like random people we don't know and then go do through a proper playtest with them.
Wonderful. Do you know, have you worked with the company before? Do you know whether, or rather, do you know how they pick the people? Is it like, sort of them trying to get your target audience already, or just getting random people to play it?
No, it's gonna be the first time we work with a third-party company to do playtests. And from what I understand, they're gonna try and pick our target audience indeed. Yeah.
Oh, nice.
Like random people.
Definitely let me know afterwards how that went. I'm super curious.
Yeah, me too, actually. Yeah, it's gonna be great. Yeah, because apparently they're also gonna film like the reaction of the people, which is gonna be very interesting to have that feedback as like, what's their emotion at that moment.
Yeah. I actually remember talking to a friend of mine who's a developer at a free-to-play mobile game company, Studio. And they run a lot of these tests where they also get videos of people playing it. And sometimes they also get eye direction heat map. So sort of like where the eye is looking heat map on the screen so that they can see what specifically they were looking at. And he did say that sometimes it would happen that the person is there just super bored, clearly in it just for the money. They're there just like, okay, give me my $10. I will be here for half an hour. Don't worry about it. And then after a half an hour, just stands up and gets the money and leaves.
Really? So they wouldn't even play the game, or they would
play
just mess about a bit,
but very robotically, right? It would just be, okay, there's a button, all right, I'll click it. But there was no emotional involvement. There was no actual effort to play the game as if they were interested in the game. Yeah. So I'm also curious whether this happens to you. Curious.
Yeah, me too. Because it's hard, right? It's a hard thing to simulate how people will play at home or while they play in the wild.
Yeah, because also when you're asking the questions, right? So let's say that you give it to a person that you know is from your target audience, and then you're designing the questions. Questions are tough because you don't want to put ideas into the heads of people that you're asking. You don't want to be giving a question along the lines of, so tell me why the game is great.
Yes.
Explain it to me in 5 words. Tell me why the first level was the thing you really enjoyed.
Yes, but you also have to be very, like, if you ask questions, like, it's very good to pick, like, give examples of what you saw. Like, first you do the very open questions, and after that you can say, like, I saw this behavior. Like, I saw you pick up this item and put it back down like 5 times in a row. What was your thought process behind that? And a lot of time people almost forgot that they did something like that. Like, it's very natural. Like, they are in like a state of flow and they do things. And then when you ask them like a very pinpointed question about their behavior, they'll be like, oh, and then they'll start explaining.
That's beautiful. And that is a super powerful tip. Seriously. Yeah. And I don't hear it often. And I love that because you are there. You're also showing that, I think it's very good for human to human rapport because you can see they notice that you noticed it as well.
Yes.
It's a bit of a bonding experience from my experience, from my point of view.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah, and then they can be honest about it as well. That is lovely.
Yeah, and that's also very hard to get people to be completely honest, because often they're like, "Oh, I didn't get what I had to do there. It's me. I'm maybe dumb." It's like, no, it's all our fault. Like, if you don't get the game, then it's on us. We did mistake it.
Yeah. I see that this is a problem that goes in both extremes. First, there's the extreme of a person trying to be too nice. Maybe they know you. Maybe they're like, you're a friend of mine, you're a game developer, I know you want to make good games, and this was a really good game. And they don't really mean it. And then I also meet the issue on the other side of the story of the stick, where you have other developers that are overly critical under the guise of constructive criticism, right? Where they take a look at the game and they imagine all of the possible issues with the game from various angles, because they're designers, and designers can take a look at it from a million angles, and they take all of them and they give you all of that feedback. And you have to be very careful when listening to feedback as well.
Yes, for sure. Yeah, I had an instance where a developer was playing the game and he was very, very critical, because there was a bug in the game, and it was like a bug I was struggling with a few times, and like I decided not to solve it for now. And he was like, I'm gonna solve it now on the playtest.
Okay.
And I was like,
good luck.
Cool, I guess. Like, yeah, good luck. Like, it's nice that you want to help out, but I mean, that's like,
Yeah.
what are you saying here? That I'm such a bad developer that you could solve it in like 10 minutes while I spent like a few days on it.
And, maybe they could, but it's still not exactly the most productive thing at that moment, right?
Yeah, true. Also, yeah.
That's another thing, because and also sometimes a fresh set of eyes will notice things very quickly, right? That's why rubber ducking works. That's a really good thing about that. It sounds like you're going through this lovely journey where you're picking up also a lot of experience from the various facets of game development, but also game production and marketing, and getting it out there as a product. I have this juicy question. If you were working on your own game, let's say that you're a solo developer, and you're serious about it, you want to bring it to the market, you want to do something well, how would you market test? How would you test?
Market test?
Yeah, how would you test whether this can work as a commercial product? Or, if you would, of course. I don't know if you'd be doing that, but if yes, how would you go about it?
So at the moment, I'm also like working a little bit on a side project of my own, but because it's like a side project, I don't want it to be profitable. I want to be making the thing I want to be making, right? So I'm not doing any market research there. I'm just doing my thing. But if I were to have to sell it, and this may be also for the company, right? Because we don't have a plan for what's the next game yet.
Right.
So what we were thinking is just making a lot of things, like doing a game a week, for example, and playtesting them every time. Like making a lot of very small games, playtesting them every time, so that people can give feedback. For example, at the developer meetup or online or whatever, and then. After a few months of doing that, like seeing, okay, what worked the best, plus what's like trendy, and then go in that direction.
Yeah, that could work.
Just make a lot of things.
I see what you're saying. It's the good old saying, throwing things at the wall to see what sticks. Right?
Yes.
Whatever.
Making the spaghetti.
Whatever's still hanging at the end of the day, you go, that's the one. I love it.
We're doing it, yes.
Yeah. I remember with Mad Cookies, which is the team that I'm part of, we were once, thinking about 4 different ideas for a game, and then we prototyped all of them as well. And then there were various opinions on each one, and there was one that was more liked than the others. But then again, we were a team. We still wanted to do what we wanted to do. We disregarded all of it, and we just went with the option that we wanted.
Yeah.
Looking
you need to
back,
have the motivation.
Yeah, the motivation helps. Looking back, I wouldn't do it. But if I were to travel back in time without the know-how and memories that I have picked up in the meantime, I'd definitely go the same way again. Right?
Yeah.
Just, yeah, picking the game that I want to be making. Sure. And then...
Yeah, that's also like the balance you have to strike, right? Between the dream job of making your like the game you want to make, or making it profitable, right? Making sure the company stays afloat and everyone is paid at the end of the day and can still live of whatever they're doing.
But then if you go too far in that direction, it stops being that fun, because you're always just looking at the market, looking at the game and going, okay, so how do we get enough money out of this? Yeah.
Yes. Yes.
You mentioned a personal project. I'm excited to hear about this. What is it? Well, you don't.
I don't want to tell a lot about it for now, but I can say like it's gonna be very personal. So it's gonna be a very personal experience with a lot of story. It's not gonna be a hard game, and I also don't think it's gonna be a long game. But I want to make something very personal, which is gonna tell a bunch of stories throughout each other. It's gonna be, I have a lot of ideas, and it's gonna be interesting for me to make them, and I hope also for people to play it afterwards.
Sounds exciting. Will you? Do you plan on releasing it on Steam or itch, or how are you going to do this?
That's a good question. I'm not sure yet. So for now, I was thinking of maybe indeed releasing it paid for very, very cheap, for like €3 or maybe even less.
Right.
Just as a kind of way of like, I don't know, like making it worth my while, or like not that, but like, I don't know.
No, I think that's good. It reminds me of this game called A Short Hike.
Yeah.
Have you played it?
Yes, it's amazing.
Yeah. Amazing game, right? Also made, I think it was made by a solo developer. I wouldn't put my hand in the fire for that, but he also said, it's a super short experience, and it was a super short experience. I finished in about 2 hours, maybe, right? It was super pleasant, super nice, cheap, but I enjoyed it.
Yeah, that's the kind of game I love.
Yeah. You don't need to invest 120 hours.
Yes, exactly.
I remember calling a friend of mine and asking whether he wants to go for a coffee. And he's like, I can't, I'm fishing. I go, what? I've never heard of you doing any fishing ever. And he goes, no. I think he was playing Valhalla, Assassin's Creed Valhalla. I was like, okay, so you're fishing Valhalla. I go, why? And he says, you see, there's this achievement. I've almost 100% all of the achievements. The last one I'm missing is that I need to fish out something, a crazy number, so like 4,000 fish, right, out of the sea. And he was just there in the game going.
4,000, that's just a random number. It's not even like fish all the different kinds of fish. It's like...
yeah, so he couldn't. So I also really appreciate these small, lovely experiences. As a player, do you appreciate when a game has a story or when it's heavily systemic? Which direction do you lead?
I really love story in games. Like I really love when it's even like a pretty short story. Like the games I recently played were Disco Elysium, which is a little longer. I played it for 40 hours because I really was into the story and like going through it. And that game is just an audiobook, right?
I've heard great stuff about Disco Elysium. I've never played it myself though.
It's awesome. You should play it. And then other games I like are like these 2-hour games like Fenba, like what other things do you have? Assembled with Care, I think.
Assembled with Care. Nice.
Yeah.
Nice.
I really love that. It's just like snippets of story interspersed with like puzzles or that's awesome. And another game I played recently was Chance of Sinner, which is amazing.
What is it about? It's got a good name. I'm curious now.
It's I don't know if you've seen it. It's a game where you learn languages and then you have to like speak to the people in your new understanding of their language, and then you get to puzzle like words together, and it's amazing.
But I imagine you do get to. Wait, are the languages real or made up?
They're made up. Yeah.
Made up languages. That could be exciting. Because
Yes.
if you've got a game with made up languages, I assume it means that the languages can't be very complex. Which,
yes, indeed.
Yeah, so they're very straightforward, and you've got interesting.
But it was, a lot of fun, and it was pretty interesting as well because at the moment I'm also learning French. So I would go to a French lesson, and my mind would be blown because French is I'm French. And then after that, I would play Chance of Sinar. I'm like, this is way more fun.
Much better than Duolingo.
Yes.
But yeah, French, but also French. I don't want to. No. I respect the language very much, but it's just, to me, specifically as a Slavic. So I was born in the Czech Republic, right? Where when you see a letter, it's got a pronunciation. You put multiple letters together with the same, and they all have a pronunciation. You just put those pronunciations together. There is no magic. There is very little hidden behind the veil.
It's just straight up. If you can read it, you can say it.
If you can read the alphabet, you can read the language most of the time, of course. There are some super weird sounds. For example, the R with a diacritic with a tick. It is, as far as I'm concerned, the only language, Czech, which has this letter, the sound, and it's R.
Yeah, no.
And you're like, why did you even within the Slavic family of languages, none other has it. And I'm just always thinking, why did you come up with a new sound?
We have the R and we have the J. Let's put them together. That's what it sounded like to me.
It is very much like it. Yes, exactly. But yeah, okay. Enough about linguistics.
Yes.
What was it? Oh yes, Godot add-ons.
Oh yes.
Right, so custom tooling. It is such an important aspect of game development, is tooling, which is something that when I started with game development, I never realized how useful it is to be able to create your own tooling. And I know that you're fairly well versed in this dark magic of writing your own tooling.
Yes.
How many add-ons or tools that you wrote yourselves are you using in your current project at the moment?
Oh, I think there's 4 or 5, but I know I've written more.
Nice.
Mostly, like the earlier tools I created are by now standard in the engine.
Really? What?
Which is not from my code, but it's like now in the engine. Like for example, previously you weren't able to drag and drop, for example, nodes into your script, so you had to manually write like on ready, the name of your variable is equal to, and then you had to write the whole thing. So I made a button for that where you could just like select a node and then you would press the button and it would plop it all in your script.
That's the best. Wow.
Yeah.
Wow.
So things like that, like also like doing random audio and stuff like that, like those just quality of life plugins that you need.
Randomized audio file, not files, audio tracks.
Streams, or tracks.
Yeah.
It was not in the engine, right? Until
super useful. I think it was 4.0 that introduced it first. I think.
Yes. We still don't have it. I think in 3.5. Do we?
I don't think so.
Yeah. By now we're using Fmod, which is also through a plugin. But yeah.
Yeah. Have you? Okay, we're getting sidetracked, but I need to know about Fmod. Have you? Would you recommend using Fmod in a game that you want to release and publish?
Yes, for sure. Fmod is amazing. Now, also like the plugin for Fmod on Godot 4 is way better than the plugin for 3. We had to do like some tweaking. We had to change some code to make sure it worked like we wanted it for Koira. And that also brought on some problems because like the C++ plugins in 3.5 are really like black boxes, so it's hard to debug.
Yes.
But it's awesome to work with Fmod. Like if you know like a little bit about sound design and you've ever opened up a DAW, like a digital audio workstation, you'll love working with Fmod
I
or
really
maybe
need to
Wise.
try
I don't
this.
know.
I really, yeah. I've heard WWise is a little more complex than Fmod. It can do more, but to me, Fmod feels like this really good level of abstraction and capability, right?
Yes,
That
for
it can
sure.
do the right amount of stuff that you normally need for a small to medium-sized project.
Exactly. Yeah, and Fmod is also cheaper,
Right. Big
which
advantage.
always helps with if you're a small studio. Yeah.
Oh, absolutely does. Yeah. And so have you also battle tested it? Right. So does it export to every platform that you need? Well, are there ever any issues in any part of the process?
So for now it works. We just have to like go on every platform and do like the export there. Or we have to compile the Fmod plugin on each platform separately. Um, um, so and for now we don't have Linux machines, so we're not supporting Linux through there at the moment. But for sure we'll probably like try to find the Linux machine. But other than that, like for Windows, it works perfectly. And we will have a company porting the game, so we don't need to worry about that. Although the platforms are not set in stone yet, so we cannot confirm on which platforms we'll release. But we will not have to worry about, for example, porting Fmod. That will be done for us. Yeah.
Right, right. And has this, if you can say, of course, has it been confirmed that porting Fmod is all right? They're not going to have an issue with it, that they'll do it?
I asked it and they said no problem. I was like,
Oh,
cool.
wow. All right. That is very good news. And I think something very
Yes.
important. I know a couple of people, and I am one of them. I admire Fmod for what it can do, right? For the amount of possibilities it gives you, just like you said, for sound design. However, I'm a little worried, is it going to export well to every platform that I want to support? If I want to have my game ported by an external studio, will they have an issue with it? But from what you're saying, it sounds pretty good.
I mean, there's enough projects that used Fmod and that are on all the platforms, even mobile, so it should be doable.
True. It's everywhere. I was watching a stream of a person developing a game for a game jam about 3 weeks ago, I think. And they did spend the first half of the day for a 3-day game jam implementing Fmod. But then it was really good.
Oh yeah, probably like all
Once
of
you
a
have
sudden the
it
sound
set
like.
up. Yeah, it just exploded in quality. Yeah. Yeah, right. So back to add-ons. Can you name a few that you're now using in your project? Your custom tooling, sorry, yeah.
From ourselves, yeah. So the one I'm the most proud of is our map cutter, which is an add-on that automatically makes navigation meshes based on the collision shapes that are in your level. Because that was not a trivial thing to create. Because you have to start from every collision shape. You have to then make that collision shape into a polygon, which is already like, how do you do that? And then you have to merge all of these collision shapes without making them overlap or things like that. And it sounds simple, but it's less trivial than I expected it to be.
Imagine.
And there's still some edge cases where it breaks, and then you have to manually go and check, like, oh, where is this one thing that's overlapped?
But the speed up in workflow must be considerable already.
Yes,
right?
yes, it's amazing, because before that we were doing all the nav meshes by hand, and our levels are just huge. Like we are trying to size them down and like cut them up in chunks, but then still, like, a nav mesh is easy to manage if you only have to put down like 100 points or maybe even less. But we were having like thousands of points, and like every time you you moved like one part of the level, you had to redo that whole part of the nav mesh because it's one thing, right?
Yeah.
You cannot just use multiple nav meshes, or in 3.5 at least that's not a thing. So you had to have one big nav mesh, or you had to have like two nav meshes where the polygon, like where they meet should be exactly the same. Like the polygon should be exactly at the same point.
Right.
So that's not really an option. And this plugin like saves us immense amounts of time.
That's
like
a massive
really
paper
months.
cut.
Yes.
Massive paper cut, right?
Yes.
When you imagine
and
that, yeah,
it's easy. It's easy to take a task like this and just say like, it's just part of the job, and I just have to do it. But if you just stop and think about it for a second and like spend a week creating the plugin, then yeah,
this isn't the true value of custom tooling is specifically this. There are these little tasks that you have to do, and sometimes they're not little, but they're repetitive and they steal your time, right? If you can create a tool for it, you said it yourself. It must have already saved you weeks, if not months, right?
Yes,
of your work time, and that is a big number.
Yes, we are very happy with that. And I don't know if Godot 4 has like an automatic nav mesh generator. Maybe it's interesting to port it one day to 4.
It could be very useful. I don't know about 2D. In 3D, you can generate nav meshes based on static geometry. That works, and that works well. But I don't use 2D very often, so I don't know about that one.
All right. For me, the opposite. I don't use 3D often, so...
Yeah, you have one less dimension of issues.
Yes, yes. And that's a lot, you know?
Oh, yeah.
If there's only 3 dimensions, then taking 1/3 away is...
You save a huge amount of issues that you never have to face, you know? Why is it going up? Why not forward?
Yes, true. But on the other hand, in 3D, like things like set indexing and like set sorting is like done automatically. It's like
absolutely, yeah. I had to work on I worked on a game jam game. It was 2D. It was my first time using or creating a game in 2D for a game jam, I think ever, and working out Y sorting, automatic Y sorting, right? So based on the position, the Y position of your character or anything, it gets hidden or shown in front of another sprite based on the Y position. And that was wild. I was so lost. I thought it was going to be easy because I'm coming from 3D to 2D. It wasn't.
Yeah, it can be a pain in the butt, especially if like your thing that you want to position on the screen is like diagonal. All of a sudden, like the character is like standing in front of it at some points, like behind it at other points. You have to be creative. Like how do you avoid that? Yeah.
These are my least favorite issues in game development, right? Where there's something related to a bounding box, for example, right? The AA baby, the bounding box of an object. And you're like, it works here, but it doesn't here. But I need it to work in both cases. Otherwise, it's never going to look good.
Yes.
Like you say, you really need to be creative in those moments.
Those are the moments where you see that game development is just duct tape and mirrors and.
Oh, absolutely. If you can fake it. It'll be good.
Yes.
You know.
Absolutely.
Are there any other custom tools that you're using, or any official add-ons that you can get from the Godot asset library?
So one of the add-ons from somebody else that we're using, is the Smart Shape 2D, which is amazing.
What does it do?
It's like you can create a polygon and then add what kind of texture you want in the polygon, what kind of texture you want around the circumference of the polygon. And it's ideal to make like terrain or like custom shapes on the fly.
Yep, gotcha. I imagine that's also a thing that saves you a lot of time. Because what would you have to do otherwise to get the same thing?
You have to like create the assets exactly the shape you want it, and
that's the alternative. You would have to create the assets.
Yes,
wow.
or you have to make like a sort of tile set where you can make like create these shapes yourself. Like I
see what you're saying, but a tile set would always be square grid based, wouldn't it? Whereas from what you're saying, the Smart Shape 2D, you've got the freedom of just drawing a polygon, right?
Yes, just exactly. And
oh wow,
it looks awesome.
All right. Do you use it extensively in the project?
We mostly use it for drawing like the backgrounds.
Okay.
So it's the right shape. We can, like, if there's like a cliff where you can see like far in the distance, you have like the nice outline of the cliff, things like that.
I imagine you definitely have parallax backgrounds, right?
Yes, for sure.
Yeah, parallax is great. How do you find setting up parallax in Godot? Is it straightforward?
It's, to be honest, it's kind of a pain in the butt to do, because it's
All right.
it's one of the things I wanted to make a tool for, actually, but didn't get to yet, because we shifted on to other things within the project, where we didn't need parallax backgrounds for the moment. But so how it works in 3.5 is that you have to like very specifically say like, okay, this is the offset for this layer, and it's like gonna move from here to there. And it's like with this ratio, like if you're moving 1x, then this layer is gonna only do 0.5, stuff like that, and you have to do that, define it for every layer. And so if you want to move all your layers, you have to move the offsets of all the layers, and it's kind of annoying.
That must be annoying. Yeah.
Yeah, and you cannot just like drag and drop like, okay, I want my layer to be like all the layers to be here. Like if you then run the game, it will be somewhere completely different.
Gotcha.
So I wanted to make a tool that makes that way easier.
Yeah, to me, from what you're describing, it sounds like there isn't enough abstraction, right? The all of the values there, they could be simplified to be doing the same thing, right?
Yes.
Yeah.
Or at least like in editor previews of your parallax backgrounds, because for now you just have to like guess it, and then you go in the game, look at it, and then you can change it while in the game, but you cannot like preview properly from within the editor.
Yeah, in terms of previewing, the one thing that I sometimes miss in Godot is the ability to view UI and the game scene at the same time.
Okay.
This is probably not an issue in 2D, is it? You can see, you can see UI and the game at the same time, right? In 2D.
If we want to, we don't have a lot of UI. We just have like markers that say you can interact with this thing, but we don't have like a HUD or for us, it's not that big of a deal.
Yeah, you mentioned that. Very little, well, at the moment, no text in the game, where you can't guarantee that's going to be there till release, but so far it's going that way.
We're hoping for it, yes.
That's awesome, by the way. If I can come back to that, I think that's very powerful, and if done well, it's an immersive experience, right?
Exactly, yeah.
You really immerse yourself.
That's what we're going for.
Yeah. You know, because the moment you have a game with a lot of Excel sheets and little labels everywhere and pop-up menus that tell you about another thing, it stops being an immersive from the point of view of a story, but it starts being immersive from the point of view of being a mathematician and working out an issue.
Yes, yeah.
Yeah, it's a different kind of a thing.
Yeah, true. I think that also relates to like I don't know if you've ever read A Theory of Fun by Rolf Koster, where he explains like what is fun. And one of the definitions of fun is like an unsolved problem in your head, like an unoptimized problem. Like, for example, the first time you play tic-tac-toe, which is just like X's and O's, which is actually very, very simple. But the first time you play it, you don't understand that you need to take the middle square, for example.
Yeah.
And so as long as you never figured that out, the game is fun to keep playing and keep toying with it. And once you see like the winning strategy, it's no longer fun. So you got the game, you understand what it's about. And I think those kind of games, like the spreadsheet games, are more like that. You try to understand the system, like visualize it in your mind.
Oh yeah, it's all the roguelike games, right?
Yeah, for example, yeah.
Right, because you've got the upgrades, you've got the loadouts, you've got the permanent progression, and you're constantly thinking, okay, so this was not optimal. How can I make it better? That makes sense.
Yes, yeah. Which is like a super valid way of having fun, right? I love roguelikes as well. So I'm not discrediting any systemic games or anything.
Oh, no, yeah, great games. I mean, all games are great. It just depends on the person playing them. Well, okay,
Exactly,
not
yeah.
all games. Okay, well, objectively speaking, some games are crap.
I don't know. I like to think that every game
Uh-huh.
is someone's favorite game. You know, someone out there is maybe
Yes.
like I like to think that. That's maybe naive, but
Naive is good. I'm sure it's true, right? Even if you have the lowest effort copy paste visual novel created over I don't know through an automatic process, there could still be a person that looks at it and just thinks perfection.
it's just
Can I?
perfect. Yeah.
Yeah, I don't need any other games.
Yeah. I mean, sometimes i- sometimes you look at like for example, Baba Is You is like a super puzzle
Oh
game.
yeah,
The art is like kind of crappy, but it works so well.
so well.
It's like if you would yeah, I don't know.
Baba Is You is it's a really cool game. It's a
Yes.
really cool game. Like you say, it works really well in simplicity, right? And that simplicity works also because that game requires clarity as much as it can. Things need to be
True.
clear when you are moving about. Yeah.
Yes.
So you mentioned a book where the person wrote about that fun is when you are still optimizing something in your head, right?
Yeah. Yeah. One of the things is that.
One of the things, right? Right. And did he mention the kind of a fun that you experience in story-driven games? Did he go into something along those lines?
Yes. I need to read the book. I read it like a long time ago, but it's an amazing book, and I highly recommend reading it and also just checking out Ralph Koster in general.
It's
He has
awesome.
like some talks on GDC about like, for example, practical creativity, where he shows you how to be creative without like being struck by lightning, you know, like without waiting for it.
without having to go to the shower and waiting for the muse, right?
Yes,
Just
exactly.
just be creative.
Yes.
It's easy, just do it.
Just
Yeah.
do it. Just have an idea.
These are some things that sometimes I view as things that you can train yourself to be creative, but also motivated, right?
Yeah,
Even you don't need to wake up every day with a lot of energy, but you can still get up, do things, and suddenly find that motivation, bring it closer to you, allow it to happen.
that's true. Yeah. I think it's yeah, I think it can go two ways. Like you should never drive it this far that you get into a burnout.
Oh no,
That you're like sick
no,
of whatever you're doing, because
that's dangerous.
that's something, yeah, that's something I see a lot in like for example, the game dev Twitter, where people are like too much into the grind set, you know, like you need to work every day of the week, and you need to work on your game like all the time. And I saw a tweet from one of the Vlambeer developers from Nuclear Throne and stuff,
Oh,
who was
yeah.
mocking Screenshot Saturday with like, Screenshot Saturday, what's next? Check your email Sunday.
It can go super far. And people, we are amazing at disregarding our limits,
Yes.
right? And that's why this can happen, because we just keep on going and going and keep on going, and then we never stop until it's too late sometimes.
Exactly. And that's the thing with passion, right? We're very passionate people in the game dev industry. And that's great. That's awesome. We love what we do, but it's also very easy to go too far in it, I think.
Yeah. Yeah. It's a disadvantage. It's a massive advantage because passion will inherently allow you to be a little more excited when you're working on it. On the other hand, it allows you to not notice worse conditions. Maybe that worst condition is that you're not drinking enough water. It could be that you're not going for a walk when you really feel like you need to stretch your legs. You don't even notice it because you're passionate.
Yeah, because you're passionate. Yeah.
Because you're passionate. A real double-edged sword, this one, isn't it?
Darn passion.
Yeah. Have you ever experienced burnout?
I don't think I ever really experienced burnout, but I did get like I did have to take some time for myself to like come to myself and like re-ground like what do I want, and make sure I'm not overextending myself. Yeah.
Do you think you'll be doing that again?
I hope I just strike a balance and not have to do it.
That's a good one. That's a good one.
That's the thing, yeah.
Finding a system that works, right?
Yeah, exactly. And for
Yeah.
everyone, it's different. So, yeah, I don't know.
Yeah. Finding a real balance, just like you say. Balance is the key word, I suppose. Now that we're talking about it, right? The moment it gets balanced, yeah, it's just like an hourglass, right? It always keeps on turning when it needs to.
Yeah, that's
Nice.
true.
All right.
Yeah.
Well, Sander, where can people follow you?
So you can follow me on Twitter at Sander Vhove. That's VHOVE. Yes, at the end. Or you can find me on Instagram. I'm less active there, but I would go for Twitter.
Twitter.
That's the best part. Yeah.
Nice.
You can also find me on Mastodon and on. Yeah, no, I'm not on Blue Sky, but yeah, that's it.
All right. And can people wishlist the game?
Yes, for sure. So it's on Steam. It's called Koira. That's Koira. Yes.
Nice. Also fantastic. Yeah. So yeah, wishlist. Everyone listening to this, go ahead and wishlist the game. I'll put the links in the description. And in addition to that, what about the studio where you're working? Is that where can people follow the studio?
Yeah, so we are on Twitter and Instagram and TikTok.
Oh, nice.
Under StudioTolima. The StudioTolima.
Okay.
And we post almost every week, and we're planning to post way more towards the release.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah. And a super quick question. How's TikTok going?
Good. So it depends on what kind of content you post. Like if you do like the TikTok-y content where it's like fast-paced jokes, funny music, or where you like tell your game development story, like something very personal, then it does very well. Like more serene things where we are also kind of want to go towards, because it's a serene game, less.
Okay. Cool. All right. Well, Sander, thank you so much.
Thank you so much for inviting me to the podcast. It was a lot of fun.